Hello everybody, welcome to the Corporate Parenting Meeting on the 23rd of July 2024. The first piece of business will be to elect a chair of the meeting. So can I ask for nominations from the floor and the second, please?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Hall.
Oh, cheers, Paul. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Councillor Hall, you're the chair.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Paul. So yes, obviously, Councillor Whitby has recently been elected as a member of Parliament for Derbyshire, so we obviously know the chair. So I just want to put on record my thanks for his service to this committee, and I wish him well in his new career. All very exciting for him. So let's get. Oh, we're the vice chair now as well, don't we? Okay, I'll nominate you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. So just to comment on that, Chair, being a kind of convention is the cabinet member for children, youth and skills kind of chair the meeting. This is an English property. We're here as corporate parents. It's put our political hats. And work collectively support the work that's being done on our behalf by let's make sure that our young people who are in the community to their better lives and have the best future they can possibly have. Also, I've now become deputy leader, so I can't guarantee I could make it.
No, absolutely.
For the chair here. And I have absolute confidence in you.
Oh, thank you very much. That's great. And that's actually sorry. No, that's right. That's right. So just bring up to speed, Councillor Ashby. I'm the new chair for corporate parenting. Now that Councillor Whitby is also in Parliament, will be attending these meetings. Right. So let's get started then, shall we? Have we got any apologies? I think we've got quite a few.
Yes, we've got apologies from Councillor Bolton, Councillor Woolston, Steve Atkinson, Heather P, Andy Smith, Superintendent Rebecca Webster, Joe Greenbridge and Kelly Buswell, who are due to present the last item on the agenda, but can't because they've got COVID.
Right.
Sam Direford, and Sharon Buckley.
Yes. Have we had on Councillor Longstaff?
No.
Okay. Right. Okay. Late items to be introduced by the chair. I've got no late items. Declarations of interest. Anybody? No, we're all good. Okay. Minutes to be held on the 2nd of April 2024. So, we're technicality because it was not we therefore have to approve any of the recommendations that were recommended in that meeting. However, I've gone through the minutes from the last meeting. There was no significant recommendation. It was all just noting the report. So, if we're all happy, you're happy to approve that?
Yes, can I just make a comment? On the very last page, the last two pages of the previous meeting, their experience being a protected characteristic. Right at the end of the meeting, unless I've gone with the hairline. It's after, it's appendix 2. Sorry.
That's this. That's for this meeting.
That's for this meeting. Oh, sorry.
Getting ahead of yourself, Councillor Gray.
Yeah.
But if we're happy to, obviously.
I can't hear, so I can't prove them.
I've read through them and I approved.
Brilliant. Okay, awesome. Right. Then we'll move on to item number 5, which is the Children in Care Council update from. Over to you.
So I'm here to present the report around Our Voice, Our Success and provide a summary of participation activities over the last quarter. The first point I'll talk about is 4.1 around our meetings. The last meeting was due to be held in May here at the Council House to work on the design aspects of the review of the pledge. Unfortunately, this meeting was cancelled due to lack of attendance and the interest of 2 people who were attending, unfortunately, pulling out last minute. I've continued the work that we was due to do on that session separately with the creative design officer and seeking support from young people outside of that meeting. But what I did want to talk about was due to the lack of interest over the previous calendar year around these traditional meetings that were where we hold them monthly or bi-monthly. I would like to seek support from the committee to cease continuation of the meetings in this way. The umbrella of our Voice Our Success is quite broad in terms of what we do for consultation. We have lots of different methods of consultation and meetings and sessions outside of the traditional monthly meetings, which these do gather more qualitative data from young people, and we have much more interest around these ad hoc meetings, and it sparks their interest areas more so than attending the formal meeting. We do have higher engagement in doing the more ad hoc sessions or workshops or project as well, which I discussed in the previous committee around the Broken Stigma project and the workshops we held, where we had up to 15 young people at any one time in these workshops. So it is highlighted in those sessions that there is improvement around engagement. As I said, we do meet quite regularly around other things, and it does seem we are meeting at least once a month on these other projects anyway, and it kind of diminishes the need to have the formal meeting. So it's just to seek approval around.
So is the suggestion then to obviously can off the formal meeting? It's basically do what that meeting did, but in the kind of more less informal sessions.
Yeah, so to be a bit more fluid and flexible around young people and around what they actually want to do and projects they would like to get involved in.
I mean, I completely agree, Laura, with labouring some of these meetings for a number of years now. What would be really helpful, and I don't know whether you would be able to do this, is to have the committee a forward plan, potentially of themes, and that perhaps the committee might want to have some input into that, so that we have a bit of a 12-month programme, a forward plan of kind of those areas, so that we can understand some of the topics that are important for children.
Yeah.
Our children. Yes. So our Voice Our Success talking about.
Yeah, of course. And just to add to that, later on in the report, I do talk about a poll that's out, which does actually have a question around the topic areas that young people actually want to talk about. Inform more about that later on.
Also, Councillor Ashby.
I was just going to say, I agree and certainly support you in not having formal meetings. One of the things that struck me from going to the launch of the Breaking the Stigma film was the fact that they have so many meetings. They have so many engagements. To put in a formal meeting that they don't want and that you cover in other ways, I would agree. It's a way frustrating for you, I should think. And probably a bit of a waste of your time if they're going to. I agree with you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we haven't talked about this, but I think one of the things that we maybe look at is through the virtual school we have what we have is Making Thursdays. So we engage with a lot of children every Thursday doing a creative activity. Maybe there's some linkage there between the themes that you want to explore, because we've got established relationships with a lot of those youngsters. It might be that it combines two things.
Great, thank you.
Okay, cool. So are we happy then to we proceed as you see fit with us to setting? Are we happy with that?
I just do want to draw our attention to the appendix on those last pages, notes of our voice, our success projected characteristics, motion. We went through a period from June really well before that, different kinds of elections with councillors involved in all sorts of things out and about in the community. We maybe need to look at this, and I would ask that you, Chair, and I work together to bring a motion. One of us proposing and the other of us second to actually bring this to fruition, to bring a motion together. Are you happy to do that?
You see that?
Yeah. Okay, so that's a really good help. And we can let the young people know that we'll bring this through so that anyone who has care experience that will be seen as a protected characteristic as far as Derby City Council is concerned. Yeah. Okay. I can't. Obviously, it's dependent full council to support it, but I don't think it's a political issue. I think it's something our young people dearly want and should have. And we're also well behind with other authorities. And given that we're outstanding children in terms of Ofsted, it seems that we're a total outlier in the way we're treating this. So we're really pleased and actually delighted to bring this forward to council. So
thank you, Councillor Esselgrave, and I really welcome and support that. And just to note for the children that want to attend in the next full council is the 18th of September.
Right. So it would be nice to have some young people in public now.
Yeah, I have actually got a young person in agreement to come along on that day.
Yeah, and maybe the youth mayor should be informed so that he's aware. And deputy.
Could I ask, I don't know if many of you clicked on the YouTube video from the Oldham Youth Council and where the motion was brought forward there. But it was so effective when the young people themselves spoke to the motion. And I wondered whether there would be a possibility of young people or even the deputy and the youth mayor, if not one of the young, or one of those and one of the young people care, perhaps Laura, who's asked if she can come. Because that was hugely effective, having those young people speaking. And I found that very moving and almost impossible to argue against, really.
I mean, I fully agree with you, Cam. I think we have to look at our constitution and the scope there is for people from public to comment. If we can do it in any way, try and do that. But their presence at the gallery will be great. And you know, come one, come all, as far as I'm concerned. If we can do that, I'd love to do that. Yeah. If we can, I'm sure you will be tough. The chair and I will be advocates 100% for this in terms of representing to fellow corporate parents who are councillors. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, Chair, thank you. And just to offer support to you both to coordinate that motion and to work with Laura and our young people to make sure that we get best reputation and representation as possible.
Yeah. So I'm happy with you.
Okay, cool, brilliant. Thank you very much. Over to you, Laura.
So moving on to 4.2 of the report, which is the Breaking the Stigma project. Again, I've now touched on this in previous committees. The piece of work has obviously come to an end, but the bulk of it is now completed. So this was in collaboration with myself and the virtual school, on a project which ran from October to support a young person's desire to break the stigma around children in care. And just to recap, this came to the forefront of priorities after a young person who did attend some of our regular meetings spoke about how she felt that it was a stigma throughout school, particularly, and alongside peers, around young people that were looked after by the authority, and they feel ashamed and have negative experiences. They can hide this from other people. And it was felt that it was due to the lack of knowledge and experience of others, which could be supported with the right information and tools to increase understanding. So we ran a series of workshops from February to April, which, as I said earlier, were quite well attended. We had up to 15 or something sessions, which was really quite pleased with. And they were able to write a script, plan a story, and a narrative around that, and work with animators to create their piece, which was named One Day. And when I say they really did put their all into this, didn't they? And they really did choose every aspect from, I will play it shortly, but around the animation style, what was in it, the imagery, everything. They chose it all, really. We did have a premiere night on June the 5th at Quad in Derby, which was a red carpet premiere night. It was attended by the young people involved, along with members of DCC, including the Chief Exec, the Director for Early Health and Social Care, and various councillors. Young people received certificates for their achievements, following the show before having some time together with food and to celebrate the project. We had the communications officer in attendance, who also released a press release recently. I'm not sure if you've seen that. And yeah, I would like to show the film if everybody is happy to watch it.
Yeah.
One day I'll drive a monster truck called Master Crusher, and I'll have fun all day, always, because I'll be the manager of a nursery. I'll coach the youth team to be champions. I'll sing at concerts in front of loads of people, and they'll all be cheering. It'll be on the Orkney Islands. I'll be eating paella in Spain because I have enough money to visit every country in the world and buy the sickest BMX that exists. I'll have pets and a massive family, and I'll smile as I watch them grow, because we'll all be happy by then, and I'll be the welterweight champion of the world.
Wiki wiki, time to get up. Are you ready for school? You got everything?
Just a sec. So many versions of this, so many worlds swirling around.
All in this one person. My version is Auntie Laura, where my cousins and my sisters.
My version is my sister, she's better than all the rest.
My version is a nice foster carer with a loving family.
My version is a full English with haggis. In the camper van on my foster carer's drive. Mine is at home, drawing with my birth mum and my little brother.
And mine is birthdays with my carer. She just makes them, like, special.
Have fun at school. I'll pick you up at 4 and we'll go for your LAC review.
Morning, everyone. As some of you know, today's assembly is all about kids in care.
No, please.
Now, you children in care all have different experiences. Some live with foster parents or in a children's home. Some children can live with family and still be in care. This can be called a kinship, all connected, or a friends and family placement.
Some children who used to be in care were adopted. This might have happened when they were very, very small. Some children might have moved home lots. Some might stay with one carer until they're an adult. It can be unpredictable.
There's a whole network of adults who are involved in their care, from their social worker, social service.
These are not just a bunch of letters and initials. These are actual people in my life that help me. My social worker is there to support me and help me share my views. My independent reviewing officer and other adults support me together. I love spending time with my foster family. We go to the hairdressers together. My virtual school officer helps me with my education and how things can be better for me at school. I get to spend time in nature with some of my class and teachers. I get to talk to children like me and share my ideas about how we feel in group meetings. I get to see shows with Plus One and act in my drama group. I love my creative mentoring sessions, learning how to draw manga characters, I've learnt how to ride a bike and paddleboard. I've learnt how to cook, making traditional moussaka and pasta from scratch. I've learnt that we're all different, and that makes us the same.
That's what we all need to remember. Okay, off to lunch.
I heard she lives like. What's wrong with her? Is it like Tracy Beaker? Nah, I feel sorry for her.
No.
Why is she showing the maths?
How are you coping with everything? Any new drawings
I can see?
How's the basketball going? Have you been writing much?
Have you been writing much?
How would you rate your holiday on a scale of 1 to 10? You good? Is there anything you want to talk about? How would you rate your holiday on a scale of 1 to 10? Anybody say anything? Is there anything you want to talk about?
I wish you could just read my mind and understand.
Libby, how are you feeling? The video assembly was a bit much, wasn't it? Not exactly from this century. Me and all the other teachers here know that it can be a little overwhelming sometimes. Things are going to be okay though, and we're all here for you. You don't ever need to feel like you're alone. Don't forget, you have family time soon too, so you'll get to see your sister, Mia. For now, take some time to relax. Do something fun for yourself.
So you had fun?
Yeah. Take it.
I can't.
Give it back to me next time.
What are you going to do then? I'm going to go drama.
I've got +1 tonight.
I'm going to rollering.
We've got sewing with Susanna tonight.
I'm going horse riding.
Nina's coming over. We're making chicken curry.
I'm going horse riding.
I'm going to build a city in Minecraft.
I'm chumpy Chinese tonight.
I've got boxing.
One day I'll live on a meadow farm in LA or Dubai, and I'll be a nursery teacher, or a basketball coach, or the greatest music and karate teacher, and then lots and lots of money. And I'll have 4 kids, or 5 kids, with names like Aiden and Zane, or Tessa and Valerie. One day I'll be in Japan, or Scotland, or Iceland, or the Bahamas. It just depends, because I'll be an artist, or a writer, or a zookeeping animator, or probably a voice actor, / artist, / therapist, and make millions taking photographs.
Or just for the foundations. But it is there for people to, if they wanted to watch it again and actually have the sound for the duration. Just before I move on to 4.3, the purpose of the film was around showing one day. So it shows that every day can be different for every young person. So it just shows one day, but also they're sort of saying one day I will be. So it's kind of like a dual purpose in their eyes. But just before I move on to 4.3, I just wondered if Graham would like to add anything, because I said we collaborated on this quite heavily.
I think it was a really interesting project because, and we couldn't have done it without the creative industry in the city. So I think it was really interesting in terms of the young people working with creatives in the city. And there's something that's going around in my mind about faces, places and spaces. In terms of our young people seeing the faces and being comfortable with those places in different spaces. And I think that was a real testimony to them, that they came together not knowing each other as a group, and 15 of them with very different experiences. And it did take a while to get through several sessions so they could feel comfortable. Because some of the stuff that they were bringing up was very personal. It was a really difficult theme for them. in terms of being in care from their experience. But they were all great in doing that and formed some really good friendships with each other. And I think one of the things that we wanted to portray through the film was that positiveness.
Yeah.
And I think that does come through in terms of aspiration, all the things. But when we showed it to the youngsters and they listened to the film, they could hear their voice coming through. And I think that was really powerful for them in terms of, oh, I said that. And I thought that was really nice in terms of, and all the things that you heard through the dialogue, those are all things that young people have experienced because of our Voice House SS, the virtual school, all those opportunities. So that all came from them. It wasn't things that we made up, which was great. So yeah, I thought it was a really positive, collaborative venture, and it was really positive for the young people to be involved in that. I think Laura's probably going to want to talk about what next for the film. It's all very well doing the film, but so how are we going to actually use it to destigmatise being in care?
So yeah, I just want to acknowledge that it's just an absolutely amazing film. So thank you for all the work that's made to that, and there's a partnership as well to the arts sector too. And I think what Laura's not added, unless you're going to mention it, that this film's had national exposure as well at the Association of Directors of Children's Services conference this year. 2 of our Tafter children went to that conference and presented and showed the film, and it was really powerful, and it received a standing ovation from Directors of Children's Services nationally. So yes, we need to absolutely celebrate the success of this and make sure that we do champion the use of this film to raise awareness, particularly in schools, because I think the message for me coming through is around that, not deliberate, but perhaps inadvertent discrimination that young people felt in schools. That we really do need your support, Graham, in terms of getting this message out and that going through schools. But absolute phenomenal success. So proud of it.
Thanks, Laura. It was great to see it again, having seen it at the launch. Could we pass our congratulations and thanks from this committee back to young people for this, because it's superb. And to those who've only seen it for the first time today, it really does bear watching again, because at the launch we saw it twice through that second showing. Yeah.
There's lots of subtle messages that you don't pick up on first time, which is really nice.
Suggest that we actually send this as an attachment to all councils. Because I must admit that I didn't hear a lot of it, and we might be in the same boat. I don't want to admit it, but and I think thinking as well, every councillor has corporate parents you get. Yeah, and the other thing, are there any awards potential, any national awards that could put that forward for? Because it's clearly a standing piece of work and very powerful, and it could give even more recognition on the national stage.
Just to add on where we are going next with this, and myself and Graham will be talking over the next month about how we roll this out sort of into the school arena, predominantly secondary school in Derby. I think we said would be the starting point. I did a workshop at a school session only last week before, which will be, feedback will be in my next report in the next committee. But that was around finding out what young people want to move forward, who they want to see it, how they want people to see it, what discussions they want sparked from it, and we will look at how we move that forward. I know we've had some questions around if it was in schools, what trained teachers might need, or what kind of information they might need to be able to answer questions appropriately and correctly that might spark from watching this. So there will be quite a lot of work over the coming months while we work out how that's rolling in schools. But also, just to add to that, what came out of the workshops was this started off being a project where we wanted to inform and educate their peers predominantly. But what came out of the workshops was actually they felt that everybody needed to see it, didn't they? They felt that the parents of the children in schools need to see it. Some people said that they wanted their birth families to see it. Some people said social workers. The list was endless around who they wanted to see it. So I think moving past the schools, which is our starting point, we will look how we then further this out into the community, into the public. And I know that there has been some discussion, certainly at a previous committee, which the chief exec raised around public awareness around children's services and the impact on authority and public around that. So there might be some scope for this to be part of an educational tool for everybody, not just the schools. Moving on to 4.4, we have briefly discussed the care experience protected characteristic earlier on. But we held a workshop on the 10th of June to gather views of young people alongside a poll which was live till the end of June to enable young people to take part who weren't able to attend the workshop. Findings are in Appendix 2. And as mentioned earlier, I will facilitate young people attending cabinet where appropriate with this motion.
Just on that, it'd be really useful for them to have their voice in any features we made for council.
Yeah.
Put us in secondly. So anything you could capture as personal statements, trustly and honest, obviously, from anyone who was there, would really help bring it alive to as a kind of presentation. Yeah.
4.5 is around the pledge review. I've been working alongside young people and ECC professionals to review the current pledge and ensure it meets the needs of young people. We have a creative design officer working on the design aspect of the pledge, but I felt it important to share the new promises that we've made, which are very similar to the ones before. Young people felt that they were all relevant and important to keep. There has been slight rewording of some of the points just to give a bit more context or understanding to people, because some of the points they didn't understand what it actually meant. So we're hoping that it might be slightly easier to read, albeit we do appreciate some young people may still need support to access and understand the meanings behind it. So the points are there, 1 through to 10, around the new pledge, which I believe Professor will add to public parenting strategy.
Yeah, what you'll have noted as part of the package, you've got the new corporate parenting strategy. And I did speak to Laura when I put the old pledge in there, that once we've done the work around updating the new pledge, I will update the strategy. So if you want to compare the changes, you just have to look at the strategy, because that's got the old pledge in. What we will do after this meeting is, it's nice that it's only just minor changes, because the pledge is very relevant, but we will update it to reflect the changes that we'll do.
Cool. So in terms of the pledge, I was hoping for agreement from the committee that everybody's happy with the promises that we are pledging to make as an authority to our young people. Uh, 5.1 is around care leavers. I continue to work alongside a personal advisor within the leaving care team and facilitated attendance of a care leaver at the national conference, which we spoke about earlier. No, that's fine. Who did attend the conference, sorry. He actually read some poetry, which was really powerful. He's released 2 poetry books, which are very much purchase on Amazon, I do believe. He is quite an inspiration. But just to add to that, because I know Sue-Ann mentioned the conference earlier, I will report on the conference as a whole at the next committee, but it really was sensational. It was a really great day. The young people got so much from it, even down to travelling on a train, which one of them had never been on a train before. She was so excited, and they did so well. Yeah, the audience were moved to tears at one point, actually more than one point, I think. Although it was very daunting, standing up in front of 300 people, it was a huge success. So I just wanted to touch on that. And that's the end of the report for our Royal South Success. That's it.
Yeah, do you have any more questions for Laura? Anyone? We're happy with the recommendations that we. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm behind this TV screen.
I was just reflecting on the pledge. So obviously I'm a partner organisation in the NHS, and I think that it's really important just to note that I think I need to take this back and get that formally supported through the ICB as well. Just to note that, I guess. And there's other partner organisations that aren't here today. I think they need to be drawn into it.
Yeah, sorry. That's right. Stuart, and then Councillor.
Thank you, Nikki, and that's really helpful. I think that's part of the parenting strategy, which kind of is partnership wide. I think that will be. But I think there's something around, because clearly as a social worker, there's no reason why there's not conversation to be had around health workers, etc., adopting that and having some discussion with our young people around perhaps what they would be wanting from the health arena to make that very specific to that organisation. And I think that would be really helpful. And again, across other organisations as well, because we've done something similar with police, with our youth justice service, etc. But that would be really innovative.
Will you reach out to me?
Councillor, I'd just like to thank very much all of the team that work with our young people in this area for the outstanding work they do, and clearly they're really good advocates for them here in the committee. But it goes wider. I think you're a credit to the council for the work they do. I'd like to pass that on. Sure, be all good. Thank you.
So happy to note the report. I think our key recommendation is for the chair, the deputy leader of the council to work together on a motion for care experience and protecting characteristic for the next full council in September. It's fantastic. Awesome. Right. Well, thank you very much for presenting that, Laura. Thank you very much for showing this to me. Appreciate it. So we will then to item 6, which is the update report unaccompanied asylum seeker children by Peter. Peter, over to you.
So I provided a short report on update for the asylum seeking children in relation to understand safety issues for them and what we're doing to address those safety issues, and also looking at some of the developments of government policy in relation to you asking. So the report broadly covers 3 sections, really, just support information. And then the next section looking at the overall safety of UASC and the interventions we use to keep them safe. And then lastly looking at government policy in relation to UASC and what within that. Just sort of the key points in each area, really, in the supporting information section. Provided some sort of breakdown of the data in terms of referrals and demographics of the young people that we work with. There has been a lot of change over the last financial years, really. It's been largely consistent year to year since the specialist migration team has been in place for 3 to 4 years. The only anomaly really is that we've had much younger UASC into our care in recent years. So last year we had a 13-year-old to our care, the national transfer scheme, but that is still very much reality where the majority of young people coming into our care looked at the children, or sort of 16, 17 year old males. I provided the breakdown in terms of some of the safety issues for the asylum seeking children across the city in terms of Mark 4.10, 4.10, and a list of interventions about how you want to the asylum seeking to keep those children safer. But I think the main points, key points developed over last year with regards to them are in relation to missing episodes and unauthorised absences.
just like to note a big improvement in the sense that in the last financial year, we had no young people go long-term missing. In previous financial years, we've had some young people who have gone missing for 6-7 months, back into our care. And then we've had some young people who unfortunately never returned to our care. And you know, the same currently experienced young people who never returned to our care. But in the last financial year, we had no rates cost of them. In terms of working together and providing sort of new networks that weren't here last year or this year, I've reached out to my counterpart in Derbyshire, Anthony Sempers, and we've agreed to meet on a quarterly basis to share information about UASC trends and safeguard best practices across both local authorities. So we've got a shared approach, and that's somewhat largely the fact that we share our principles. At some point, both myself and Natalie spoke about the possibility of trying to get police to attend those quarterly meetings, because often there will be police officers in certain positions tend to move around a little bit more than we do. I think, you know, I did some work last year, for example, on Operation Inerst, which is the sort of joint protocol to the police and the local authorities around what happens when a person presents to the police at a police station. And we had a sort of defined sort of action plan of how we would tackle that. But unfortunately, both the police officers that I was working with last year have now retired or moved on to a different role. So I'm still looking for a link into the police as to who's now running that operation. Yeah, so we're just looking for that really. We've noticed the new trends where police seem to have changed their campaigns in recent months. There's been a couple of times when people have been placed on a sort of PPO, which is a protection order to try and keep that child safe. But that is at the point where we haven't necessarily, us as a social care haven't said whether we give a child compares to be a child or an adult yet. So they're getting PPO them straight away. So that's something new when we're trying to work with police on, well, what's happening there if you've got a new set of procedures. Let's meet up and talk about those so we're both on the same page in terms of how we work with children. Another development, but that is not necessarily in the court, is just to briefly note in terms of safety for UASC and children in general, is that following the review of boundary disputes case law within the Regional Migration Partnership, the regional UASC leads worked on a memorandum of understanding with regards to how we operate when someone presents an our local authority claiming to be a child. The memorandum agreed that regardless of if the person's been seen by another local authority, if the person's been presenting your local authority, we go and see and have our own view on whether they were an adult or a child. And that's in line with our duty to the Children Act to make sure that it's not a child in our area who we may need to safeguard actions or support as a child. Just move on to developments in government policy, the regional approaches to UASC. The report for this change of government. Since then, there's still some stuff up in the air, some stuff's been clarified. I think the Rwanda plan now seems to have ended, which there's quite a lot of relief about for the actual young people in our care. We're very anxious about that. But it was around, I think, when people are anxious and uncertain, they tend to fill up with fear. And this work's been created for them. I think this gives us a sense of relief about that. I've haven't heard much at the moment in terms of, my understanding is that the National Age Assessment Board is still continuing to try to roll out its processes, and that the scientific assessment of age is still planned to work that out. Really, they're still trying to plan to roll that out alongside age assessments. But it's a bit up in the air at the moment, really, so I think to cover that a little bit more. Lastly, just a note, I think there's a lot of frustration with the social workers in there when I'm company asylum seeking team about how we deliver finances to young people. We've struggled to get finances to them in an effective way. They really struggle to open bank accounts because they haven't got the amount of ID that you usually expect. I think we've done work with a number of different banks across the city. I've been into banks, spoken to people, and we've got an understanding of what the person might need. The person then goes into the bank and gets refused. And it's really difficult to get them accounts. And the other methods that we've tried while we're waiting for a bank account for that person are really ineffective. The QCB is ineffective. That's prepaid cards. Really struggle with it. So any support or advice really from the committee in terms of how we can potentially get some sort of service level agreement with a bank about opening accounts for unaccompanied asylum seekers who were corporate parents would be really useful. I'm sure local authority you've got links, banks, and well, supported.
Yes, just two things. I know the Cabinet recently approved and updated youth justice policy, which is kind of protocol of how anybody is coming into the justice service, a young person coming into the justice service for the first time is approached, and every step is taken to making sure, that the person who's kind of committed a crime of some kind, if it's commensurate with a lower kind of approach, basically every attempt is made not to criminalise them or involve them in the justice system at all. And it's called the youth justice thing. I'll send you a link to it, Peter, and then you just follow and say, UASC kids are not necessarily being treated along with the protocol that we have. And the police works really closely with dedicated officers to make sure that happens and keep people out of the justice system wherever we can. It clearly depends on the person to comply and work with them to keep them out of it. But that's something worth looking at. On the other thing of getting a bank account, have you looked at Derby Community Bank, which is in the queue and is a credit union?
You can try that one. I'm not sure social workers that one. I've never tried many banks across the city, but I think that's what
the council has a link to Derby Community Bank. Anybody on the payroll of the Derby City Council can automatically pay money from their salary directly into a Derby Community Bank account. So you get a current account, etc. Yeah. So I don't think there'll be anything. And if you want, I'll get in contact with the CEO to help you.
You really useful.
Okay.
So I've got a question. So 4.10, it's obviously talking about and the trafficking model that they'll do. So they come to care, etc. And then when they leave, that's when they kind of essentially get them into what I would class as almost modern day slavery. So these people don't have bank accounts, they can control their money, and then it kind of sort of spirals from there. So my question is, what support do we currently provide children while they're in our care? And how do we monitor them past the point of 18? So if we think they're a vulnerable individual and there's a risk that we don't know for definite, but that there could be something going on that we don't know about here. How do we monitor to make sure that they're not being forced into sort of that modern day slavery? Because I would kind of, so my view, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, is that if we don't monitor them, then they'd be actually enabling modern day slavery, which doesn't sit very well with me.
I think this is the report. It's really hard to identify when it's happening, especially for an adult, because they'll be able to make money at times, so they've got the leaves of May, and then they will pay through, like, you wouldn't necessarily see a huge amount, necessarily going out to tips or the wages that might have got certainly, well, maybe not all of it, but I think we, as prepared and as best we can prior to the 18th, even if there's not identified exploitation happening at this moment, which we've got a procedure around, that doesn't deter us from working with the independent child trafficking advocates. Will support us still providing that degoogling exploitation key work with children. I think all the specialist migration teams, social workers, are all very good for doing that safety plan, safety work as well. And I think we can really see that in some of the examples of provided at, I think, 4.26 and 4.27 in terms of the work they do when their children to bring this exploitation down. And when they become kids, leave care, they will get a personal advisor for leave care, and all that will be handed over in a transition week. Okay. In terms of what type of work needs done and supported them with, and then that's taken on essentially by the personal advisor who essentially is everything social work within the as a care unit. So visits, the reviews, supports. And if anything isn't noticed in terms of that, it'll make a referral to adult social care. There'll be processes around safety.
Cool. Yes, I was just about to say around the all of our asylum-seeking children at the age of 18 are eligible for living care status up to the age of 25, and I think that's quite a significant amount of time, and that we can then absolutely monitor and understand if there's anything happening in space. Thank you.
Yes, just about. Are they involved in the staying close arrangements?
If they have eligible for it, I mean, if staying close tends to be more about whether you've experienced some residential sort of care in the past, and a lot more young people sometimes children don't tend to be more residential care usually. They're usually in supported accommodation or foster care. Right. Right. Yeah. They do sometimes have short periods of staying put with foster care. We prepare them with their own tenancy or supported accommodation arrangements.
I'm just thinking how we make sure we try and avoid them becoming needs, not employment, education or training, and they can fall out of the system. Because that means it's harder to track what they're up to. Leaves them more vulnerable, in my opinion.
A very key things I've seen children and care leaves are very key. Education and working by and large. Yeah, it's more about being able to meet the demands and actual then what to do. Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
Anything for anybody else? Yes.
So am I right, because I was concerned as to where these young people live. So am I right there for an understanding, say that they're either in supported living or foster care? What's a supported living mean? Is it flats or something like a bit of support?
Yeah, I mean, some of that support is 24/7 support, and some of it support where they're living with a group of vulnerable companies, asylum-seeking children, which then support hours by key workers provided into that property. When young people are ready, they usually use supported accommodation across the city for US children when they're 17 or moving on towards 18, but then they're independent. We tend to try and do that in terms of matching with other young people of shared cultures, heritages and experiences. We do think that there's safety in numbers in terms of the likelihood is that when you get to 18 and you're deciding to see and you're looking at their own properties, because of the lack of properties across the city as well in terms of housing, that a lot of these young people are going to shared accommodation. So to prepare them for that, we sort of work with housing providers to provide a shared accommodation, put support in there. A lot of the providers like besides housing will keep the young people once they turn 18 and once they've got their status to make them in their housing. They just move in between the under 18 accommodation to the adult accommodations. A lot of our foster placements are outside the city there.
Just a kind thing. I don't know how many of our schools should be self-pleased. I don't know about I did a lot of work with the New Arrivals Alliance in my previous cabinet post. Who obviously try and make everything as seamless as possible about coming into the country and settling down here and all those things that go with that. And I know that the City of Derby Academy is going to become what's called a school of sanctuary, where that whole idea is kind of in the very marrow of the school and how it works. And I think it might really worthwhile to try and push that. And I'm talking to colleagues in education generally to get more schools to become designated to school of sanctuary, primaries and secondaries. I think that'd be a really good. I'd like to work with you with the issues on that picture. Yeah.
Yeah, the main, I think we have not many children until city places, which is the city with foster age. The bulk of the work what we do for education at Derby College, we have really good experts. So for Derby College to take on that role as well.
Well, that would be worth talking to Derby College then. And you could be a good advocate for that. She must have contacts with them.
Yeah, we have really.
It's really. Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Brilliant. Anything for anybody else? No, haven't to the report. Again, thank you very much. That extensive report. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item number 7 then, which is the independent review service. So there's over to you.
Thank you, Chair. In your pack, you'll have had a brief report from me, and also appended is the IRO service annual report for 23-24. As part of my requirements as the manager of the independent review service, I'm required to do an annual report around the work of the IRO service. And as part of that guidance, the IRO handbook 2010, I'm required to bring that report to the corporate parent committee for their scrutiny. So that's why you've got the report. We bring it every year, and I tell you about what the IRO service has done and the kind of challenges we have. The IRO role has been around for about 22 years now. It's an independent role that came out of the Children Adoption Act 2002. And it's actually a role that has a number of facets to it, but primarily it's to ensure that the voice of the child in care is represented in their care plans are appropriate, and also for the IROs to chair the reviews, independent reviews, to make sure that the care plans for the local authority are appropriate to each young person. Before I start talking about the report, I did put a note here that I was going to tell you about the cover picture on my report, which is by a young person called Lily. She's in our care in Blossom House. And each year I try to get a photo from or a picture from young people, and this year it's from Lily, and she's a budding artist, and I think she thinks, by having a photo and having a picture of the IRO report, we'll get lots of publicity. I hope it will, but I'm really thankful for her doing it, and it is really nice. So, I just wanted to thank her for doing that. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm hoping that people have an opportunity to look at the report. So what I'm going to focus is around the key successes and the challenges of the IRO service, because I could be here for a long time if I go through every page. In terms of the IROs, it's a very experienced and settled team. We've got 10 IROs, full-time equivalent 9.3. It's a a mixed team of gender, of background, of experience, and they cover a number of particular areas and specialisms. Some focus around adoption, others focus around disability, others focus around youth justice services and so forth. So really experienced team, very settled. Over the last year, we've had one IRO leave and an addition that was appointed last September, but generally very experienced and very settled. You'll know as a committee, the number of children in care has been fairly stable. In fact, over the last probably 8 to 9 months, it's come down. And it's continued to come down since I've written this report, quite significantly, actually. I think when I wrote the report, it was around 600 odd. I think I was looking at the data this week, it was around 560. So it's come down considerably. And what that does in turn is actually kind of reassure us that we're moving young people onto permanence. We've got our thresholds right, but also what it affords is the IROs more time to spend with young people to get their views, to understand what young people's needs are, and also, to make sure that, IROs are building those relationships with young people. And that is being reflected by the IROs that, in terms of their caseloads, the guidance, the IRO handbook, which is statutory guidance, says that IROs should have a caseload between 50 and 70. I think when I wrote this report, it was around mid 60s, but I think since then it's come down even better. So we're in a really good place in Derby in terms of IRO workloads in relation to the number of children in care. Obviously, there could be more work done around reducing the overall numbers of children in care, but I think we're on the right path in terms of making sure that, we are moving young people on appropriately and their care plans reflect their needs. So over the last year, the IROs have continued to have a hybrid model where they've undertaken reviews both virtually and face-to-face. You'll all know during COVID, a massive change shifted in working styles, and the IRO service was no different. We adopted a predominantly virtual system of sharing reviews. That actually worked really, really well, and it actually increased participation from young people considerably, participation from parents and carers. So that really was a positive from COVID, if I could say that, in terms of the involvement, the views of young people. So post-COVID, we've continued to have a model where we've utilised that technology, and where it's suited young people, we've continued with that. But also over the last year, we've gone back into doing face-to-face reviews. I've put a policy together for the IROs to make sure that they do at least one review a year face-to-face, so that they give people an opportunity to meet and get involved and see the young people. And IROs do also see young people in between reviews as well, because part of understanding the young people's needs, understanding whether the care plan is appropriate, the IROs have to build that relationship. So that is working really well. As I said, the IRO service continues to remain stable and experienced. One of the real positives I gathered when I was doing this report was about when we gathered feedback from parents, carers and professionals, and there's a whole section in my report around the feedback. We've now, for the last couple of years, as a Children's Quality Assurance Service, got an electronic system where after each review, after each meeting, we send a link to the parents, to the young person, to the carers and to professionals to give us feedback around their experience of the review. So after a review, everybody gets the link. Last year, I think there was a few more returns in terms of young people and carers, but this is something we as a QA service have identified and we will do more work on. But what I've been assuring is that everybody gets that link. So it's about people choosing to kind of fill that in, keep the link in. But in terms of the feedback, it's really been overwhelmingly positive, really, really, really good. In particular, the feedback from parents and young people, which I'd like to increase, but the feedback's been positive. We've got loads and loads of feedback from professionals, and I've only kind of put a little bit in there, but really, really positive around the work that the IROs do in terms of working with young people, the relationships that they build, the way they share the reviews, the way that they involve professionals, carers and young people, the way they kind of make the whole review process inclusive. It really lots of positive feedback. And as I said, what I didn't want to do was kind of make this report around the feedback the IRO's got, but I've just added some bits in just to give you a flavour that, and I was really pleased that people take the time to give that feedback, so clearly they've been affected by it. And, I've shared it with the IROs and kind of, I suppose, they've been assured that what they're doing is good, high quality, and it's been appreciated, which is really, really good. One of the things that I measure as manager of the IRO service, and we used to report to the Department of Education, but we don't do anymore, was around the timeliness of reviews. So as an IRO service in Derby, we've always performed really, really well around making sure that our statutory reviews are within timescales. So as an IRO service, when a young person comes into care, we have to do a review within 28 days, and then within 3 months, and then every 6 months. And that's a measure that for many, many, many years, we used to have to report back to the Department of Education. It's something that we'll continue to capture, and it's something that assures me that, we're prioritising reviews and making sure that they happen. And in Derby, over 24 that should be, we were at 98.6%, which exceeds our target of 97%. So really, really positive around that. And the other measure that we used to have to report back to DFE was participation. And again, that's a measure that we as an IRO service really, really prioritise, because we want to involve young people within the review process. We want them to give us their views. We want them to share, the successes, the challenges that they have in. And in Derby, over 23-24, that was 97.3%, which again is above our target of 97%. And if you can imagine, we have hundreds and hundreds of reviews over the year, so that's a really good figure in terms of making sure that those reviews happen on time. I've talked a bit about caseloads at point 6. When I did the report, it was approximately 68, each IRO had 68 cases, and the guidance says it should be between 50 and 70. Since then, it has come down to about, I'd say, kind of early 60s, which is really positive. In terms of our young people, you'll see in the report, there's still a challenge around sufficiency of placements. Obviously, what we as a council would like to place our children as close to home as possible, and preferably where a young person needs a foster placement, we like to place them in a foster placement. Where they need a residential placement, we like to place them in a residential placement, but close to home as possible, because what we know is through research is when they get older, they gravitate towards home, and that's where they feel comfortable. But at the moment, there's a national, it's been for the last years really, issue around sufficiency. So we as a council, we're fairly small geographically, and our own in-house foster placements can't meet all the demand, so we have to have placements elsewhere out of Derby. So the IROs do still spend a lot of time travelling to various places across the country, so that takes a lot of their time up as well. One of the other things that we have continued in Derby, I did myself and Swan brought a report to the Corporate Parents Panel last year around the Child Safeguarding Practice Review, which was undertaken, which started in 2022. And one of the recommendations that came from that review was that local authorities undertake quality and safety reviews for all young people that are placed in dual placements in an education and residential setting. So we as a council undertook a number of activities to assure ourselves that our young people placed in those settings were having their needs met, were safe, were having their voice heard, we were getting the views of their parents and carers, as well as making sure, we've got a more stronger oversight around their provision involving which school health service, involving health. So we provided a report back to DFE, but one of the things we've done in Derby is we've continued to do those quality and safety reviews in Derby. So for those young people placed in those type of dual settings, we undertake a more comprehensive review to ensure to assure ourselves that those young people's needs are being met. And we've got a specific checklist. So that review, the IROs moan about it because it takes so long, but it's a more thorough review. We see the setting, we see where the young person is staying, we visit the school. So that's something we've carried on doing, and it really provides the assurance for the few young people that are placed in those kind of settings that they're the right settings, and where there are shortfalls or issues, we challenge those organisations to address those issues. As an IRO service, we've continued to work in partnership with our colleagues and organisations. I have regular meetings with CAFCAS and also regular meetings with Derbyshire IROs. We have regular regional training, so IROs are updated with the issues that they need to be. IROs also have a liaison role as well. So each of my IROs has a liaison role. So for example, I've got an IRO who's really a real strength is youth justice work. So one of the she's my liaison lead for work with the youth justice and young people who are in care that might be involved in criminal activity. And one of the things that over the last year there was an inspection of the youth justice services. My understanding is they got really good feedback from the inspectorate. But one of the comments that they made and commended was the liaison role that we as an IRO have put in place with the youth justice. So every young person who's remanded into a young offenders institution, they automatically get LAC status. So we have to appoint an IRO. I've got a specific IRO who deals with that, specialised, build relationships with those young offenders institutions, has built up a really strong relationship with youth justice. And we make people get their needs met. There's a clear transition plan in place. So we're very close here. That was commended. We've also got liaison role for the Children Care Service, for our young people with disabilities, leaving care service. So that's something that the IROs really enjoy and have built specialisms on, and really just make sure that we've got good partnership working with our colleagues across the council to make sure that if there's any barriers, any issues, we're addressing them at the earliest opportunity. One of the things that we as an IRO service have been doing for a number of years is have child focused reports, child centred reports. So we actually, when we do the reviews, we try to involve young people in the review as much as possible. And where possible, it's not been successful as I'd like young people to share their reviews. Actually, we've had a couple of occasions where young people have done that and they've really enjoyed it. But it's something that we as service, I think, need to aim for to do that, because it provides people that authority and ability to kind of develop their own skills as well. But the reviews are child centred, and in terms of writing the review reports, they're to the young person. So the language that we use is appropriate to that child, to that circumstances, and that's been really, really successful. We've had some really good feedback from our partners, and I know across the council, other services in terms of other teams are writing child-centred reports as well. For example, the SEAL assessment they're doing in the child-centred way as well. So that's worked really, really well. So overall, I think a really positive report. Really settled team, and that's been reflected around the good work the council's doing as well. So it's really happy to take any questions, Chair.
Sure. Thank you. That's a really great report. Thanks, and it's a great team. It's brilliant. I've just got a clarification and then a question. So, looking at the report, it talks about notifications to teams. 130. Does that mean that in 130 out of round about 600 children in care, there are concerns about process or quality or something, which means your team brought in? So is that telling me that in the fifth of cases we're not getting it right for each other? Sorry, I just want to understand.
What I've done is within that report there's a breakdown of those QA notifications. Basically, one of the key roles of the IRO is a scrutiny role to look at practice, but that scrutiny isn't just to look at where there are shortfalls, it's also to praise where there's good practice. So a large number of, quite a few of them, I haven't got it to my head, but quite a few of those are notifications where there's been good practice, excellent practice. So I wouldn't ask my IROs to do a QA notification just on good standard practice, because I'd expect good practice, but where there's exceedingly excellent practice. So we do QA notifications around that. Where there are shortfalls in practice, the IROs would initially try to kind of address those issues with the team manager, with the social worker, but where we don't have success around that, or where there's a significant shortfall, for example, one of the kind of automatic QA notifications is where a statutory visit hasn't been undertaken, we would do a formal QA notification to get a response. Now, the current system we have is that for a QA notification, there might be a number of issues that the IRO might have raised. So in that one QA notification, we might raise a number of issues. At the moment, the system that we have is an electronic system, so it doesn't allow me to kind of break that down. So there's some double counting within that, and I think I recognise that. So the 130 sounds like a lot, but I know it's a lot less than that, and a large portion of that is for positive work as well.
And then my second question was around, I know it's a really small number of children, 7 children, reasons for starting care, socially unacceptable behaviour. I just wanted to understand that a little bit more, because it shouldn't be a reflection on the child for the reason that they've been brought into care.
That's
An example would be great. Thank you.
yeah, I'm not sure I'm able to kind of give you a specific example around that, but that's about our recording. Okay, so in terms of the situation, that might be where there's been a family breakdown, and the child in that circumstances, whatever's happened. But I think that's about the way that the kind of the codes are given by the Department for Education in terms of how we take those, and social workers have taken those, but probably haven't gone into detail around, you know, whether that's the right reason.
Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions? Oh, yes, then, Councillor Bose.
I'd like to thank you for at least answering 4 of my questions before I get such a chance to ask them about the lowering of the case numbers and everything. I've got a specific question I wanted to ask you, and if you don't want to discuss it here, I'll probably meet with you afterwards. But do you have something to do with a company called J24 Resourcing?
That would be something that we could talk afterwards, if you want, around a particular case. But I'm assuming that's an organisation that provides sports accommodation. I'm assuming, Peter, but we can talk about that specifically afterwards.
Yeah, okay, because I've got some problems with that. So I'll talk to you afterwards on that.
Oh, anything from anybody else?
Yes, I'd just like to say, really appreciate the work from the show. We've had on occasions in previous years, somebody from the service coming on telling us about what they do, how much they enjoy, you know, their caseload.
You had when I did the presentation to the councillors last Monday, I had one of my IROs there. So you'll remember from that lesson. Yeah, she was talking about how passionate she is and how much she enjoys it. So that's really nice.
Absolutely. And I think I'm going to I think on behalf of the committee, I would hope pass on our immense thanks for the work they do. It's tremendous assurance we all get from that extra person who talks to them, besides their social worker and others. And presumably in school setting, their teachers and section, to give us that reassurance that everything's going well and that they have a chance to voice any concerns they have to someone they trust and build a relationship. So I think that's tremendous that the service instituted by the government works really well here for us. And, you know, you just want to say thanks ever so much to everyone who does it and everybody who supports them as well. Yeah, thanks for that.
Anything for anybody else? We all good? Happy to know the report? Fantastic, brilliant. We'll move on to item number 8, which is the corporate parenting strategy for 2024-2026. It's you.
That's me as well. Thank you, Chair. Again, you'll have a brief report from me in the pack, and also appended within the pack is the new corporate parenting strategy for 2024 to 2026. Basically, this is a document that we as a council have put together and it's a collaborative venture with my colleagues across the council and external partners as well. So we've had people from health, from Graham, from Laura, from commissioning. So, you know, we've all got together to put this document together, to highlight our ambitions for our children in care and what we'd like to do. It's got what I'm going to probably do is, because it's a long document, but I'm going to just highlight some areas to go through it. I'll just kind of go through the report. I mean, what I've got is there's bits of it that probably need updating now, given that there's been some changes. We've got the pledge, which I need to reflect in the report. The other thing that I was thinking, and I don't know how how appropriate this may or may not be, was the introduction by the chair as well, the forward, given that there's been a change of chair, whether we look to update that to reflect the current committee. Again, that's something that we can consider, just to make sure that it reflects the most contemporaneous of the situation, because the previous chair's now moved on. The strategy hasn't been signed off yet, and I think given that there's changes, we can do that. I think that would be a wise thing to do to make sure that it's very current.
It's going forward for the next.
Sorry?
Years, isn't it? It's going forward for the next.
Yeah, next few years. That's right. So I thought about.
Makes sense for the
Yeah.
current chair.
Yeah.
Councillor Hall to have his picture there. If you're happy with everything, it's
I don't know what I was about to say. I'm happy to do it, but would you not want to do it as it's your portfolio?
If it's in terms of, I mean, it does have an impact on the whole of the kind of portfolio that I have. I'm quite happy to have my photo. If that's what you would prefer.
I think yes.
Yeah. Thank you. You're the chair. I'll go with yours.
That's fine. I mean, I wrote the forward anyway, so you don't have to worry about spending. Yeah, you know, he's not going to get offended by it. So you know.
No. Yeah, I don't think he'll be offended.
No. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, in terms of the forward, some of the things that are referred to in this document, obviously, we've talked about our pledge to children in care, which we've reflected in here. We've talked about the diversity heritage pledge as well, which I've got in there, which looks around making sure that, you know, the young people that we've got in care with different backgrounds, different needs, different experiences, that the kind of care that they experience with us, we make sure that, you know, we understand their needs, and the care that we provide, the service that we provide, reflect those needs. We've also got the corporate parenting principles, which were introduced by the government in the Children's and Social Work Act 2017. So that's included within the report, and some kind of overarching information on the vision and ambition of Derby City Council, and some contextual data around us as a council, you know, the number of people that we've got in Derby and young people and so forth. So that's all very helpful in terms of giving an overview of the council. So what we've done in terms of the actual strategy is focused around 5 key areas. So the first one is listening to our young people, children and people in care. The second one is making sure that they have a good and safe place to live. The third one is working with our children and young people so that they achieve the best educational outcome for them. The fourth one is making sure our children in care are happy and healthy. And the fifth one is supporting our children in care into their adulthood life. So, you know, moving on from post 18 beyond that, to make sure that they have appropriate opportunities and so forth. So I'm just going to go through each of those areas very briefly. It's within the report. So listen to our children and young people. This is something that we do all the time. You've had a report from Laura this afternoon around the work that she does as a participation officer. So, you know, we involve our young people around that. We have young people usually at our corporate parenting committee as well. Some years ago, we made the decision to have the report from the Children Care Council as a standing item, and the first item as well, just to give it the most important aspect around that, and also to make sure that, you know, we involve our young people within that. And I know young people are probably still at school today, but usually they're here, so, you know, we've captured their voices around that. We're going to try to continue to build on that, and Laura's going to work around that, and I think, as Suanna suggested earlier on, to put a plan for the year. We obviously want to continue to involve young people within the corporate parenting committee forum, and we find that really helpful when they come and present the work they're doing. And there's lots of work that's been identified in there in terms of what we're doing next around involving young people, getting their voices, getting them involved in training, getting them involved in the work of the council, input around, you know, particular issues that are important to the council, and that's worked really well. And the plan is to continue to develop that over the coming years as well. One of the other things that we would have had on the agenda today is the Children's Rights Service. So that is a statutory requirement that we as a council have to provide for our children in care. So every child in care has a right to an independent advocate and also an independent visitor. Okay? The other element of that is the guidance that local authorities should also have a children care council. So we've got in-house children care council, which Laura runs, but the external services are the independent advocacy and the independent visitor service. So that's been in place for a number of years. That works really, really well. You will have a report from CGL within your packs. We obviously they've got COVID, but again, it's a really positive report. I take a lead on that. There's some more work that we could do around that, but generally it's very positive. And that's in place, has been in place for a number of years. It works well. So where young people need an independent visitor, we're able to provide them an independent visitor. Where they need an advocate, we do that as well. One of the other things that we've worked on over the last couple of years is work around My Life, My Journey, which we're trying to embed, and we've been trying to embed for the last 8 months. So this is about looking at the journey of young people when they come into care, looking at their experiences, looking at what's important to them, looking at their history, looking at their particular needs, and having that reflected within the care that we provide, and also documenting that as well. So when they leave, they've got an understanding of their journey within that, and that's something that we've done some training around. We've got a specific package around that, and it's something that we're trying to embed within our services across children care as well as our broader services as well. Point number 2, which is or area number 2, should I say, is making sure our young people have good and safe places to live. So when young people come into care, one of the first things that we do as a council is to make sure that we try to a permanent plan for them to find somewhere appropriate for them. If that is for them to return back to their family home, we try to work around that to make sure that the family get the support and help around that. If that is to look at adoption, we try to work around plans for adoption. If that is foster care, then we look around doing that as well. So we continue to work around that. One of the issues that I mentioned earlier in my report about the IRO service was that there's a massive issue around sufficiency of foster placements across the country. We have got a separate report, which is our sufficiency strategy, and I've been working with commissioning around that, and they are hoping to bring their sufficiency strategy to our next corporate parenting meeting. So that will outline what we as a council are doing with our partners to develop and make sure that we've got enough foster placements, enough residential placements for our young people in care, as well as in-house. So, that's something that we're working on. We continue to work to make sure that, young people get the appropriate placements that they need, but also, where there are important decisions to make around permanence, that we make sure that, work is done to ensure permanency as early as possible for young people. Peter's talked about the work that he does with his US team. That's again very specialist that we do within the council. Really, really positive work. Specialist officers within the team who are skilled to work with young people, look at their needs, provide them with the support and help that they require, and that's really, really positive. We usually get an update around the Concord Act as well from Andrew Kaiser, and I think that's something again that I've referred until the next corporate parenting committee. But that's an agreement that we've got with the police, with the courts around not criminalising young people. So working with the youth justice system to support young people and to try to deter them from getting involved in crime, but also getting a criminal record. So that's positive. Again, we're going to continue to develop that, work with our partners. And continue to make sure that that's working well, and we get regular updates at the corporate parenting committee around that as well. There's some information in the report around our own in-house residential services, so you'll all be aware that we have a number of homes that we as a council run. And our aim is to continue to develop those and make those as successful as possible. So we continue to kind of make sure that our homes are utilised and they meet the needs of our young people. Okay, so I've talked about fostering services, talked about commissioning services, we consider that. There's a lot of work that we're doing in fostering around regional work as well. So people have heard the Do2 End2 forum, which is the Derby and Derbyshire, Nottingham City and Nottinghamshire. So we're working together as councils to address some of the common themes. And one of the things that we've done is to work around the issue of fostering. So there's a joint strategy across the 4 councils to work together to firstly publicise the need for foster carers. So the principle is that we all work together, we pool our resources, we're going to get that message across further across the East Midlands, but also to work together in terms of assessing and increasing that pool of foster care. So that's working really well. So I've really left it the fostering manager to present to the next panel about the work that she's doing and how well that's working. So we're going to finish with that. There's a section in there around the working with our children and young people around their educational attainment and outcomes for them. And this is a section that Graham has kindly put together. Again, our ambition, we always get an annual report from Graham, which is always well received, and the excellent work that we do with our young people in terms of helping them achieve what's right for them. So Graham always kind of reminds us that, that each young person starts at a different point, and it's not always about, getting kind of GCSEs or A-levels, it's about looking at what progress they've made on their particular position, and we'll continue to work around that. Graham uses his pupil payment grant appropriately. There's other activities involved in, they get involved in all kinds of stuff. So Graham's highlighted, the work that they're going to do around continue to work effectively as a virtual school net service, continue to work with schools, work to increase attendance at schools. I know Graham and his service do a lot of work around after school activities as well, and trying to get people involved around that as well. So really positive work around education. Making sure our children and young people are happy and healthy. This is a section that colleagues from health have done. So the designated nurse, Heather, Pete, and her team have done that. So you'll know every young person that comes into care, there's a statutory requirement that we undertake health and development checks with those young people. So make sure that young people get a health assessment within the first 20 days, and then thereafter, if the young person is under 5 years old, to get it every 6 months. If they're over 5, every year. There's requirements to get dental checks. There's requirements to get immunisations, which we measure as well. We've got a really good setup along with their health colleagues to make sure that happens. That works really positively. So again, Heather's highlighted the work that they're doing to make sure that our young people in care are happy and healthy. They get the training and help required to address some of those issues. We've also got emotional health and wellbeing service, which is done. It's an externally commissioned service run by Action for Children, and we've had a report to the Corporate Parenting Committee before around that. I think the contract was due to run out this year, but I think there's scope to extend it for another year. I think we're going to extend it for another year next time. But that's working, and that's continuing to provide services around the emotional health and well-being of our children in care. So provide one-to-one consultation to carers, to social workers, and they also do some direct work with young people as well. So we're going to continue to do that. And there's where young people need prioritisation around that, we address those issues around that as well. A section in there around supporting our young people in care into their adulthood life. So again, a really important area around making sure that our young people are prepared to get into adulthood. So we've done quite a lot of work over the last year around getting our young people with the appropriate accommodation, working with our young people to support them to get into employment and education as well. So there's a lot of work that's happening around making sure that young people need to training opportunities linked into colleges, so they are prepared for the future around that as well. There's a section that a colleague is doing around corporate grandparents. So this is where we've got situations where we've got young people who are in care who go and have children. So we kind of become corporate grandparents, start supporting those young people to care for their children appropriately as well. So we're getting involved in early to make sure that we're doing the responsible thing around preparing those young people to become parents as well. This is a big task for anybody to become a parent at any age, but when you're young, it must be a immense task really, so to make sure that these young people get the support that they need to become successful parents and to keep their young children as well with them, rather than those young people to go into care. And finally, in terms of on page 27, what I've done is I've listed some pledges from the council, a bit of work that I did earlier on in the year with the corporate leadership team is to, and this under full support of the chief executive, is around what we've been doing as a council for our children care. Whether we can look at increasing and providing our services to our children care. So, for example, things like leisure passes, things like opportunities for work experience, opportunities for apprenticeships. So these are some of the areas that I've listed. It's work that we continue to do over this year. I'm pleased to say that at least one department offered to have an apprenticeship each year, and we've now approved that through the HR process, and hopefully we'll be advertising that in the coming weeks. And I hope that when I as part of the corporate parenting community program, I've put myself down to provide an update report next year, and I'm hoping when I provide that updated report that you will get some real tangible outcomes around the developments that we made around those pledges, and hopefully I'll be saying that we've got at least one person an apprenticeship from our children care cohort. So some really positive work around across the council, and this goes back to us as a council taking our corporate parenting responsibility seriously. And Councillor Hesselgrave and Councillor Mullen, you've highlighted things around the protected characteristics of children care, and giving a priority around that. So I think we as a council are doing a lot around that. I think there's still more to do. It's obviously a difficult climate. Funding is tight, so that does place limitations. But I think as a council, we are working really hard to make sure our children care get the best opportunities that they need, and that they can be successful, go successful to our children care system, but become successful adults as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Councillor Ashley.
I'm aware that obviously children care covers a whole range of situations. Just want to be sure, obviously the council owns some residential children's care homes, but then we have a whole cohort of children who are in privately owned care homes. Does this report refer to all of those children, regardless of whether they're in council accommodation or private? I presumed it did, but I didn't.
In terms of our provision, there's an issue of sufficiency. Obviously, we like to meet the needs of all our children in care through our foster care where possible, and for a small group in our residential provision as well, which we provide. But there's no council in the country that is.
No.
So we have to utilise the independent homes, both homes and foster care services as well. We all work in partnership
to make sure that all of the children, regardless of where they were placed, that this covered all of that. And that was really. I think the other is a different discussion entirely. I wasn't going there today.
Anything for anybody else?
Just thanks ever so much for that commentary on the report. Really sound report. I'll talk to you about some of the things that we
that's fine.
To the meeting.
So are we then happy to accept the corporate parenting strategy for 2026?
I will do. Sure.
Yeah, brilliant. Cool. Okay, fantastic. Awesome. Right. Well, everybody, that brings us to the end of the meeting. So thank you very much for your attendance, and I hope you have an enjoyable. Is it Wednesday today? Tuesday. Tuesday. For the rest of your Tuesday, I'm going to be lost track of what day it is this week. It's a long week for me already.